this is what
No.
happens to me, Chris. So I finally find it, and I'm like,
Everybody's holding up their discs.
oh, there it is, and I'm like, it's not even opened yet. It's
Oh,
just
really?
so.
Just like, I need to own this, and you bought it.
Of course,
So
I went to the theater. I came home and I said, I need to own that.
Yeah.
I bought it, and then when I did this time, I know we got to get into it, but I went out and found it in the garage, and I said I knew I had it. But then I streamed it and watched it, right?
uh,
Mm-hmm.
And then I put this on and I watched it with the commentary, the whole
that's what
thing.
I
Oh,
did.
that's a great idea.
That's what I did.
Mhm.
I was just telling John in the car the other day, like I've seen this movie a few times, so I watched it with the commentary. And what I'll say is, I know on the show it's like there are movies I like, and there are movies that I don't like, but that I admire. And this is both.
Yeah,
This is a
it's
movie.
admirable.
This movie gets better for me every time I see it.
Hmm.
But listening to the commentary track and how it was made and what a massive pain in the ass it was,
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
how committed Eggers was to historical accuracy in terms of the language and the costumes, and then just the sheer
And the actors.
watching these two guys out pirate each other. It's so fucking great.
Mhm.
And again, at the end of like, I'm not sure what's happening. It's just think this movie about these just two guys that go nuts in the rain. Because like what? There's an octopus tentacle and a mermaid, and still don't know what the fuck the ending is. But they're all dead, and the seagull's munching on his eye, and that's kind of cool.
You didn't
Two
mention
big
the
thumbs
thing.
up. I mean,
But
I
Yeah,
have
this
like
is
Spoiler
no,
alert.
I have like no notes. What I said is, I watched the HDR version of this, and I've seen a lot of movies that are trying to be like dark and moody and mysterious, where you can't see a fucking thing.
Mhm.
The lighting and the cinematography in this thing is so good.
Yeah.
Even when it is at its darkest,
Yeah.
you can still see the shit that is important.
Hmm.
Right.
And when I find out that they're shooting on this weird film stock with these antique lenses, and they had to
Well,
overcrank lighting so much so that the crew members were having to wear sunglasses.
sunglasses
Oh yeah,
at
because
night.
they were shooting with super slow stock.
Well,
Yeah.
so the bulbs had to be so bright. They were using like 1 and 2Ks right in front of people's faces.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right in front of the actors' faces. So the
Because
actors
the lenses
sometimes
were
couldn't see each other.
Yeah, these old lenses, they're not
and-
very sensitive, and so they had to like flood it with light, like it was, like
Well,
the
and
Wizard
then
of Oz,
on
you
top
know?
of the old lenses, which are true, like a 1918 lens and a couple of 1930s lenses.
One from 1870.
Yeah. One of their cinematographer actually developed his own filter that he put on in
Yes.
front of the camera that would omit letting any red into and so that's why you get why the skin looks so good in this movie is that they're not letting red into this lens at all.
Which is
And
kind of the primary color of skin.
it's the primary color of skin. So what it does is any place on your face that has red becomes black.
Yeah.
And that's why this looks so amazing because they are like any kind of capillary, any kind of thing makes them look dirty and worn, and you can see the pores more, and you can see, and it's just so well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
all in service
going
of
into
a
this
movie, which on its face is commercial suicide.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like there's no way
Black and white.
This is
wants to see
A24
this
film.
movie
It was
except
always
people
And
like
it's
us.
it's
This is
square,
always gonna be-
Well,
boy.
it's not even, and that's the other thing is like
1.17 to 1 for one thing. And when
no,
the
it's
that did
it's
that,
119.
Yeah,
118.
So
Okay.
yeah.
yeah, so they, Eggers really originally thought it was going to be 133, which is kind of standard.
It's
Yeah,
actually
like
it's called
Academy.
Academy.
4 by yeah.
Yeah.
And then his cinematographer was like, let's do 119 because that's kind of more like the old timey movies. And he was like, yeah. And so they did that on purpose.
I love it.
It's
I
almost
think so
square. It's
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The pictures of the ocean in particular, now that you've got that up, Chris,
Ah.
there is this, it looks like soup or blood or something. It's in black and white, but it's like even the surf it is in that picture, but it's like usually not white. It's like the white, the foam is like gray.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just looks
it-
like hell. It looks like you're in hell. It's
Well, if they're using that anti-red filter where you actually that would bring up green. The early film stocks were only green sensitive. Orthochromatic film.
Well, that's what this is mimicking. Orthochromatic. That's exactly right.
Yeah, but that's why films in silent era everyone looked all pale and their eyes were all milky looking because that was orthochromatic.
oh,
Wasn't
interesting.
sensitive the entire range, just green, and they replicated. But you had the filter in this thing. They replicated.
Yeah,
the
right.
orthochromatic
Makes sense.
Look.
Well, yeah, because you can't. Apparently, Eggers said that you can no longer get orthochromatic motion picture film, which is what they wanted, and so they made that filter. You can still shoot on it with still photography.
Still
Yeah.
photography.
However, as with this red filter that lets only green in, it's one of the reasons that they put so much light on it, because you have these bad lenses and a really heavy filter in front of it, which means there's almost no light getting to the lens, which means you gotta flood the fuck out of your set.
Oh yeah, you gotta flood it.
Yeah, and so it's like it was great. This film looks about as miserable as the 19th century, I imagine, is.
Yeah.
The director on the commentary track.
There's no good canned food. There's no orthodonture. There's no nothing.
The water's bad.
The water's
you gotta
bad. The food's not good.
You got to carry a bucket of shit out and throw it into the wind every
You know
day.
that alcohol was bad too. That alcohol tasted like crap. You know it.
Too, rot gut. You know, the whole 9 yards.
You guys, I got a question. I want to pass a question on to the group. And this is a question that Sheila asked about halfway through. We were watching it just before we started the show. I just finished it. And she was watching it with me, and she goes, what kind of film do you think this is? Meaning, what genre is this film?
It's horror.
I don't know if it's a horror movie.
No, it's a comedy.
No, it's a psychological drama.
A comedy horror drama.
It's a psychological drama.
What Chris said.
But it's couched in 19th century salty yar matey language. But this is all about what happens to two guys when
the two personalities.
When two different personalities, when they're not relieved at their station, and they slowly go out of their minds.
Out of their fucking mind.
Yeah, it's like
that's kind of the answers you're giving.
And honey.
Yeah.
What's going to go to your brain?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Can you even drink kerosene without dying? Is that
it was turpentine.
Turpentine. Sorry.
On the commentary track said, nope, this was a thing.
Yeah, they did it. They did it.
People used to drink Sterno and turpentine.
Yeah, people. You would put honey in turpentine, mix it together, and they called it. What did they call it, Chris? There was a name for it.
Yeah, there's a name for it.
And there's a take where Pattinson calls it that. It was called Dragon's Fire or something like that.
Something weird like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and because they research, because Eggers is Mr. Research.
Right.
He found out this was all true. They did it in the movie, and there's a take apparently where Pattinson says "Dragon's Fire" under his breath, but for some reason they cut. I don't know. They cut it. Yeah, they dropped it from the picture, but it was actually in the movie originally, and it is a real thing.
That's crazy.
Like, what I said about the last movie was that its constant cutting kind of pulled me out of it in terms of like wanting to be like I kind of wanted to like get absorbed. Like this movie pulls you into the point where you can almost smell it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
like
it
the level
smells
of
like salt and
you're like living there, dude.
The level of attention to detail to everything is so fucking good. And again, like this is what like I like The Witch a lot. I remember reading about it. The hype machine was off the chart, and then you go see like, well, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's actually better,
right?
Because it's weirder. And then he comes out with this thing, and then I know John, I don't think you've seen it, but I mean, The Northman is like.
Haven't seen it yet.
Great heavy metal movie I've ever seen in my life. It's fucking.
I loved it. I loved it.
And I'm really looking forward to Nosferatu.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, this is one of those guys that like he hasn't disappointed. Like 3 in a row, boom, boom, right out of the park.
Yeah.
And like now I'm in. Like whatever you're gonna do, I'm buying what you're selling. I will go open weekend. You got unless you really disappoint me.
And so I agree 100%. And I think additionally, he doesn't have one sort of thing. I mean, he's definitely an auteur.
You can't say it's a shtick because
because they're all so different.
It's a period. His thing is period pieces.
Period pieces and accuracy.
He's into period stuff. He's a historical director. There's a
but they're very.
He's not only into period, but he's into old films, and that's one thing the two films I picked have in common as well. Is that both these guys love old movies, old movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But all of this guy's movies are vastly different in terms of, genre, style, what they are, which is really cool.
You're right. You're right. Kind of reminds me of Glazer, Zone of Interest guy.
Yeah.
You look at his. His
Sexy Beast is so different from Under the Skin.
To Birth,
which by the way, that's a different thing. But Birth is underrated, and I watched that again recently.
It's on my short
everybody needs to go
watch
that.
I think it's on everybody's short list.
I haven't.
Although, mind you, this is also
I have not seen it, so somebody pick it because I haven't seen it.
Oh god.
Also, two things happening in this film that kind of like don't really match up. Is one is he's talking about lighthouse tenders in early 19th century in the Atlantic coast, and because all the dialogue comes from those old diaries.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire story is made up of what these guys literally wrote down.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing. But also, okay, that's the early 19th century. Then he's emulating the early 20th century look of silent film.
Yeah.
These aren't to say one thing doesn't
Two
address
different
the other. They're
things.
completely different things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it just antiques the entire thing. It's like putting a patina on it, you know?
Yeah.
And so we accept it as if there's a shot in widescreen and in color and like, you know, real natural looking thing, and these guys, the same dialogue was there, would you have liked this film better? Or you think it's
No.
more better
I don't
than
know.
because it
This
was
movie is the whole package.
It is a whole package. Yeah.
Willem
I agree.
Dafoe getting dirt thrown on him while running lines.
Mhm.
I mean, fuck.
That's
And if
pretty-
Commitment to the bit.
They shot that at the very beginning of the shoot.
Yeah, second day.
And the crew
where he
was
gets
so
buried.
blown away by Defoe's commitment
Mhm.
in that moment to that scene that Edgar says it kind of like set the tone for, all right, everybody's got to like, look what he just did.
Yeah, everybody's got to
we gotta come to his
gotta
level
bring it.
now,
That's right.
And-
Yeah,
and
it
this
told the
sounds like
crew
it's
we have to
miserable.
go through hardships because look what the actor's willing to
No,
do.
well, Eggers at one point, there's the scene when I think it's Pattinson's like in the middle of the rain, like pushing the wheelbarrow or something, and Eggers says, "I've never been that cold in my entire life."
Yeah, that's the scene where they're running to the pump house thing together.
The shoot sounded miserable.
Yeah, miserable. He said I was wearing like 5 coats. Like I've never been colder in my entire life, and here these actors are running across the, you know.
Well, it's an island in Nova Scotia. It's like it's miserable out there. Take my word for it.
This kicked my opinion of Pattinson up about 40 notches.
And there's only really like 3 shots in this movie where they used fake rain. The rest is all real.
It's coming down straight and hard.
They got the weather they needed, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Pattinson, I just want to say, I mean, everybody talks about Defoe's character and his crazy monologue about, but holy shit, Pattinson turns around and just brings it with that other one where he just berates him. I think what does Defoe say? Oh, you got away with words. Does it.
That was good stuff.
God
and you
damn,
farts. You goddamn farts.
Yeah.
So good.
I don't even know, like, do I have any? Is there anything I would change about this movie? No. I mean, even the stuff where you're like, I don't know how to interpret the tentacle. I don't know how to interpret the mermaid. I don't know how to interpret
good. Well,
it's all sexual. You know, it's
Robert Pattinson's losing his fucking mind.
No, actually, what I decided was when he gets up at the end in front of this thing for the first time,
great scene.
What I've decided was it's about being clean. This bright light is the cleanest, purest thing on this island, which is why Defoe is hanging on to it so much.
Locks it up and keeps it away from everything.
The only thing on this island that isn't dirty and stinks. And so finally, Pattinson gets his first look at it. And, like the endless silent scream falls down the stairs, breaks his neck, and the seagull eats his eye. But I mean,
which, how did he get outside? What?
Right, he crawled.
That's the part.
But I do think
he went into a religious swoon and fell backwards and down the stairs.
Yeah, sure. But
my favorite of
the only thing in the island that does not smell like shit.
I might buy that. I think in modern cinema, or in the last 5 years, whatever. When did this come out?
19.
Pattinson's weird scream with the light on him and that distorted sound design.
We need to talk about the sound design, man.
Is one of my favorite moments of all film in the last like 5 years. Like, I remember seeing that in the theater. I was just absolutely like flabbergasted at how amazing it was. I was just like, this is real cinema.
Like, what's he gonna do when he finally gets up there? What's he gonna do when he finally gets up there?
Right. And then it's just this. I mean, his face change. You can see down his mouth. You can see his like tonsils, dude. You can see.
That was a hell of a shot. I don't know how he did.
It really is.
And the sound design is just immaculate.
It's immaculate. It's incredible.
Now, also, you just said whole cinema. You have to admit that, right? Because in terms of like a film that's I think the story is kind of secondary. It's about a couple guys on an island who kind of go nuts. But in terms of a whole cinema thing where you're actually in this world and things don't make sense and things are all just being felt, perceived on a kind of like a subconscious level. it is a workahole cinema.
Yeah.
This thing.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Also, there's one thing about the mermaid, and there's two ways of looking at this film. One, he's just going nuts. Then one is there is a spiritual, like a weird haunting angle. He finds that figurine in his bed,
Right.
Right.
obsesses over it, and it becomes more and more of a distraction to him. It becomes more and more real. There could be something, if you believe in that kind of haunting idea, that
Well, in the beginning, I mean, I always took that like when he goes up and sees the tentacle, and there's obviously
Mhm.
Defoe is up there,
right.
Right.
and I think he's, I mean, you could read it different ways, but
There
I
could be
think
a
he's
malign spirit in an island.
well, he's either having sex with the octopus or he's jerking off, and then the dripping, I think, is his jizz,
Yeah,
right? That's
I
Willem
hope
Dafoe's,
not, but yes, probably.
but it is. I think it is. And that is like that kind of sets the tone for, Pattinson has his own sexual weird proclivities,
Right.
going on, and so does Old,
Yeah.
and it's just fucking bizarre, dude.
It
Well,
is.
also, I mean, it's sort of stories of the sea. This is kind of it's not a shipboard story, but it's close in that respect. It's like the isolation of the sea.
The isolation.
He talks
of
about being
men.
a sailor and all the superstitions about seabirds and the ocean and what it means when the wind changes. I mean, they're superstitious people.
Harm a seabird.
People that would, tis bad luck to
bad
kill
luck
a
to kill a
seabird.
That's the curse thing. See?
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
curse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a genuine supernatural element of things going on here, and it's not just people losing their shit and losing their minds.
And
I
also,
think
I've never
you
seen
could interpret it as that, but you could also say that there's some very weird supernatural goings on here.
Well, and I like that the movie is clever enough that you could go, this is a horror movie, and these are the supernatural elements, or this is fucking a couple of dummies drinking kerosene, losing their goddamn minds.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
and
Both of them
right.
work.
I
Well,
think both is right.
okay,
Yeah,
we
I think it
actually
is. I think it is a horror comedy drama. It's
no,
like
psychological
Yeah.
drama and horror film. It's both at once. It's
Yeah.
like
And
a
it's
mix.
funny, so I would say it's also a comedy.
it's
also
very
about-
much a comedy.
I laughed my ass off in the theater. I mean, I
laughed
knew.
my ass
Oh.
off at this thing.
Yeah, this thing is. It's
Okay,
uncomfortably
let's go-
funny. It's conventionally funny.
And it's just so over the top. It's like it's so extreme.
I would say it's droll as opposed to like out loud, ha ha ha. But
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the line. Like like I said, no one has ever pirated harder than Defoe in this movie.
There's just there's
And Pattinson calls him on it. He says, "I'm sick of your pirate bullshit."
yeah,
exactly.
like
Why'd you
it's really
spill
funny.
the beans?
Why'd you
Why'd
spill your
the
beans?
Yeah.
It's just
Also,
funny.
Yeah.
That bit with the lobster, like,
hilarious.
don't you like me, lobster, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
that's
fond
the
of me,
whole-
lobster.
Yeah, it became a question of like,
You're fond of me, lobster. Admit it.
yeah, exactly. It became like a love me, love my dog kind of thing. But also,
I would love Jim's opinion of this movie only because he hasn't. I don't think he saw it because I mean, it's obviously a love fest. I mean, this is like 10 stars. 10
But
stars.
I also want to say, like, I've never seen a movie do like mermaid genitalia, and that was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And apparently, listening to the commentary, that was modeled after real shark genitalia.
makes sense.
So yeah, it's like very realistic.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, back then there were two different kinds of mermaids. One's with the fish part on top, one's with the girl part on top. So they weren't lucky; they got the one with the girl part on top. But there's
Please, always give me the one with the girl part on top,
and I
please.
would just-
Now, you want the fish part on the top for obvious reasons, don't
No,
you?
no.
No, I
John,
don't have to look down, dude. I don't have to look down, dude.
I'll just say, John, I did not pick. I did not pick. I did not pick The Northman this week, but I would encourage you to watch it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to
The
see
end, like the end fight scene in the Northman. I think I was like standing up in the theater, like
The
going.
Northman is every Iron Maiden song put to cinema.
You're
Yeah,
right.
but it's also you
It's-
can see you can
it's the
turn
most
in the
developing
Northman you
of
can turn the
the
camera and see like 5 historians going, "Yep, that's exactly what happened."
It's this guy with a fuck ton of money and A-list stars.
There it is.
Yeah, and it's also Alexander Skarsgård, like plus 50 pounds of just brute muscle, like just
Yeah.
yoked
Oh
as
yeah,
shit.
Just nuts.
But
Like-
Defoe shows up like listen, Bjork shows up in the first reel and it's not even
Also,
weird.
Ethan Hawke is very good in the very beginning of it.
Ethan Hawke is very good. It is phenomenally
Oh, also, it's worth noting, Nicole Kidman is on fire
yeah.
in that
Very
movie,
good in
dude.
that movie.
Great.
Well, I forgot how many stars are in that.
yeah,
I
good-
think she
good-
should have been
good.
nominated for an Academy
lot.
Award. She does some magnificent work in that. No one talks about it as the mom. Anyway, she's great.
Tell you,
Getting back to this film, did this thing win any awards? Do we know?
I think it got
It was nominated for Best Cinematography.
I think that's it.
That's
Which,
it.
I mean, again, this
I remember that year.
They would poison on its face.
Because they would show scenes of Best Cinematography. They show scenes from this, and you hear the audience in the.
Oh yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy is in the Northman.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Anyway, where are we at? Anything else?
Oh,
10 out of 10. No,
John wants to say something.
Two more
second
things.
question. Did it make money?
No,
I don't think it really did.
I don't know.
But it only cost $11 million, dude. That's it.
that's actually nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty low budget film.
Two guys. They only paid. They really had to pay 2 actors.
I think it made like
But they had
20.
they had to build all those sets, and there's a
They
lot of
did build
effects.
all
in
those
this
sets.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know that there's any CG in this movie.
there is just tons.
There
probably
but
is.
he points out when there is and there isn't, and there's surprisingly very little.
It's a lot of sweetening. That's make
Sure.
it
Right.
look stormier and things like
Like
that.
the opening shot when that ship is coming at us, he's like, "That's a real ship." You would think that's CG, but we actually got a real ship, and it's coming at you.
Uh-huh.
And most of that weather is real. I mean, I think they probably added, like, obviously the lightning is probably fake, but most of the waves and the storms, those were real.
Wow.
This is island, the south end of a shitty little island in Nova Scotia.
That's right. Yeah, don't go there.
Oh yeah, I did
All
just
right.
look.
Solid thumbs up.
I think
10
it
out of
made.
10. No notes.
Oh,
I know-
it's actually my favorite
love
Eggers
it.
film so far.
Done, but okay.
Is it, Jared?
Yeah, I think I like this. This is my favorite film by Eggers. And it made 18 million.
Between this and Northman, I mean, I like The Witch, but yeah, those two.
This one just
I
because
can't wait for Nosferatu.